The end of the school year can be crazy and overwhelming in any type of classroom. What are some STEM and science activities that you can do to keep kids engaged and still learning? I'm sharing with you lessons that are easy to prep and that your students will definitely enjoy. And if you are already done with school and you have kids of your own, or you are going to be teaching some summer camp opportunities, these also work well for summer learning. Welcome to the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast, a show that'll help you with lesson ideas, systems, and actionable tips to apply to your classroom. I am your host, Naomi Meredith, a former classroom teacher turned current STEM teacher and coach. With over a decade of experience teaching and a master's degree in STEM leadership, I am here to coach you throughout the year to help you gain back more time to create innovative experiences for your students. Grab your earbuds and let's get started. Okay, so on to the activities. What are some fun things that you can still do at this crazy time of year? I know, like I've been on both sides. So I was a classroom teacher for 6 years and then K through 5 STEM. So I understand the different ways that kids can respond in different spaces. But even as a classroom teacher, doing those hands-on things actually are really, really good for kids. And they absolutely love it. And it's a great way to harness their energy and also do something really, really productive. So what are some kinds of things that you can plan for? First of all, think about some makerspace challenges. And if you're in the classroom like, nope, no makerspace, I can't do it. Think really small. You can use things that you already have in your classroom. You can ask your kids for some donations, maybe collect some things at home. You would be surprised how quickly things add up in your own home when it comes to cardboard or different cardboard tubes. They add up really, really fast. Another way I really liked collecting materials that also added up very quickly was I put a box in our teacher's lounge. And especially at the time of year, you have no time to cook, you know, energy. There's so many things happening in school and also out of school at this time that freezer meals are a great staple. And so I would put a box in the teacher's lounge and I wrote a little sign like, put your empty boxes in here, I'll collect them. And those freezer meal boxes are perfect for building with because kids can use their regular scissors to cut and they are small, manageable size. And you didn't really have to do much, send another letter home or anything. And this is also a really good way for kids to use up their school supplies before taking them home. So when you are planning a makerspace challenge, you can keep it very simple. They don't have to be overly complicated. One way to do this is to look at the standards that you have and the standards that lend themselves perfectly for building. So look for keywords that say create a model, demonstrate, show the process. And it's okay if this is a review time of science concepts, or maybe there's something you did teach, but it wasn't very hands-on. There is so much to learn about science and look at it in a different way. I still taught with all of the standards in my STEM classroom, even though I knew the kids are learning it in their classroom, but I knew they weren't doing it in STEM ways. So don't feel like, oh, we already did it. No, there's so much to learn about science. Who knows if kids grasped it the first time? Do it again in a new way. You can also do this on the flip side. So we have that nonfiction way. Think about STEM and stories. This is a really great way where kids can build and solve a problem in the story or create an alternate ending. They can create a new solution. One way, I know this isn't summer, but this is one that came off the top of my head. But think about the story of the gingerbread man, traditional story where the gingerbread man goes to the water and the wolf is like, oh, or the fox will help you. I'll help you. And sadly, the gingerbread man didn't exist. So what if the gingerbread man was a little bit smart, had some engineering skills, and students can build a boat to help the gingerbread man get across? So just a quick example there, pretty fun. Another way that you can do this makerspace is I actually did this at the end of the year. I purposely tried it out brand new at the end of the year because I wanted to do makerspace and it was a great success. And I did a whole STEM amusement park theme. So every grade level was exploring force and motion and had a different makerspace challenge of a different area of the park, and they were building to solve that problem. It was amazing. Kids were engaged. It was a great way to clean out my supplies and get it all restocked and cleaned out and ready to go for the next year. So I'm telling you, Makerspace is so much fun at the end of the year. Another way that you can keep kids engaged during this busy time is take them outside. Yes, to play. We know that. We want to enjoy the air, fresh air. Here in Colorado, our weather is so crazy in the spring, it's hit or miss. But there's so much science outside. Maybe you do something, they have a nature journal where they're making observations and you go out at the same time every day and see if there's things that they notice. And it could be even tracking the weather. I recently just got a bird feeder at my house, and that could be something too. You could build a bird feeder in Makerspace. Bonus lesson for you. I just got a bird feeder at my house, and I actually had to move the bird feeder because the first location, all the squirrels thought it was their own buffet and they're fighting over the food. So I had to move it where the squirrels can't get it. And I got so excited when I got my first two birds in my little feeder. And I'm really trying to figure out what kind of birds they are. I need to look a little bit closer. So you could do the same thing with your kids. Also, along with that, if you're making observations, you can explore shadows, bring some chalk out there. Again, go out at different times of day and have kids trace each other. Or maybe you have an object that they have to find the shadow and notice how the shadow changes at different types of day, kind of like a sundial. You could notice bugs safely. Maybe depending on where you live, you might know where to look for. Something that I've done, I do this actually at the beginning of the year, but it would work very well at the end of the year. It's having a whole STEM survival camp theme where part of their building challenges, they actually have to go outside and find their materials. So you can even think about combining that makerspace idea. Is there a way can they get materials from the outdoors to build their projects? And lastly, another way to keep students engaged, but you also would like a calm transition activity that is still learning. I did this all the time when I taught third grade and this is also really good too. If you come back from a field trip, it's not as stimulating as a show, but podcasts for kids are really, really great and a good use of having them practice their listening comprehension. You probably are doing read alouds in your classroom already, and podcasts are very similar, but even they can have more audio elements where it's kind of like watching a show, but you're listening and really comprehending what is happening. A great way to get started with podcasts is have students draw what they visualize. They can do this on paper. I actually like to do this on Seesaw. It's free to get started. This is not an ad. I just love using it. But I would link in Seesaw 3 different episodes that were related to weather. That's what we were studying. And students got to choose their episode and then draw what they were visualizing. They could turn in multiple pages as they listened, but it was really, really cool and helped them think about weather in a different way. You can also have guided comprehension questions that are related to the episode. So maybe you already pre-listened to it. You can come up with some questions you guys are answering along the way. And then if it's your first time too with podcasts, it is something to help students learn how to listen. And so you can even break up the podcast into chunks if it's their first time. So you could listen to a little bit each day. My favorite ones to use with kids, they are science-based, is Brains On, super fun, Tumble Science, similar vibes, different people. And then I'm very biased, but my podcast for kids, the STEM Career Quest podcast, where I interview people in STEM careers. So as a recap, the 3 ways that we talked about ways to keep kids engaged is trying out makerspace challenges, take your kids outside by making it a learning experience, and try out podcasts. If you really want something low prep and you were really interested in that podcast idea, for my STEM Career Quest podcast, I've been really focusing on from the beginning to make it very educational. And so for every single episode, there are listening comprehension guides that are specific to that episode. So there are career quests tests where kids actually have to listen for the answer, and then I reveal the answers at the end. There are some fun facts about the topic. There is a video and audio version, so you could choose your own adventure. There are slides of the video version where it is broken up into those chunks, so you don't have to keep track of where you are. You can listen or watch that segment to really go through that process throughout the week. Also inside, so these are all inside my STEM Career Quest Club. You also get paired comprehension guide or paired STEM activities. Yes, you get comprehension guides, but paired STEM activities that go along with each episode so you can make those connections. And a new feature that we just added are on-demand virtual field trips. So it's an hour experience where you get to have me in your classroom, watch at any time. There are guided activities that are differentiated and leveled that you can print out. And it's a visual interactive experience where they're not setting and getting, but there's an activity to go along with it. If this sounds perfect for you, you can find out more about the club at my website, naomimeredith.com. Click on the little tab that says clubs and then STEM Career Quest Club. It is all laid out for you. And it's always linked in the episode show notes for every single episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this gives you some inspiration, some fun ideas to make the end of the year not so overwhelming. You can always send me a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Naomi Meredith _. Mention my website, naomimeredith.com, and you can find all the links to the things. But I would love to hear from you if you have any questions, and enjoy the rest of your school year. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Elementary STEM Coach Podcast. I would love to connect with you over on Instagram at Naomi Meredith _ or send me an email to elementarystemcoachpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure to check out my website, naomimeredith.com, to see all the show notes from today's episode and shop my K-5 STEM resources. Any questions you have, needs for resources, or ideas for episodes, get in touch. I'll talk to you soon.